let's get straight to it. If you've ever felt that nagging fear that you're just a tiny piece in a game you don't understand, you're in the right place. We are going to expose the one thing about Hedera HBAR that is actually terrifying and then flip it on its head to show you why it's the most powerful investment signal you could ever get. By the end of this video, you will not just be prepared for what's coming, you'll know exactly how to profit from it. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments and I will give you a heart. For as long as I can remember, the phrase mass adoption has been the holy grail of crypto. It almost feels like a slogan that gets tossed around every year. We heard it in 2017 during the ICO boom where every project was going to change the world. We heard it again during the DeFi boom of 2020 with all the yield farming and insane APYs. Then came the era of NFTs in 2021, and suddenly every piece of digital art was going to bring millions into Web3. And of course, in 2023, it was all about AI and crypto with the promise that a new era of decentralized intelligence was upon us. But here we are in late 2025, and the truth is, most projects are still struggling to move past pure speculation. And honestly, that's the dreadful part. That's the scary reality that we as long-term crypto holders have to face. They've got cool tech, they've got compelling promises, they've got hype cycles that bring in millions of dollars. But are they actually building something that billions of people could use day to day? That's the question that keeps me up at night. Is all of this just a beautiful illusion? Are we just spectators in a grand experiment that never reaches the scale it promises? Think about the real world for a second. Your mom, your neighbor, your coworker, they don't care about block explorers or gas fees or layer 2 rollups. They just want an app that works. They just want to send money, buy a game, or stream a song without any friction. And the truth is, for most crypto projects, that level of frictionless usability is a fantasy. It's a slogan, not a reality. They are fighting scalability battles with complex solutions that make the user experience clunky and expensive. It's like trying to build a new road network for a massive city using only dirt paths and horse-drawn carriages. It just doesn't scale. This is the central problem that has plagued crypto since the beginning. It's a problem that we as a community have become so used to that we barely even see it anymore. We accept it as a normal part of the crypto experience. But it is a massive roadblock on the path to mass adoption, and it's a terrifying thought to consider that maybe we've all been chasing a dream that can't be fulfilled by the current technology. This is why I need you to pay attention, because this is where Hedera steps into the conversation. It's here to directly address this dreadful reality. While most projects are trying to fix a fundamentally broken model, Hedera came out of the gate saying, forget the chain. And that, my friends, is the first scary truth. The first thing that will challenge your entire belief system. Because if you've been in crypto for any length of time, you've been taught that a blockchain is the only way. You've been told that a distributed ledger must have a chain of blocks. But Hedera is different. It's not even a blockchain, it's a hash graph. And that simple, terrifying fact is the key to everything. It's the secret sauce that allows it to solve the fundamental problems of scalability, cost, and fairness that have held back every other project. In the next segment, we're going to dive into what a hash graph is, how it works, and why the fact that it's not a blockchain is actually its single biggest advantage. Get ready to have your mind blown and your deepest crypto convictions challenged. This is where the fear turns into a fascinating, mind-bending curiosity. Okay, so we just talked about the dreadful reality of crypto. The promises of mass adoption have always been just a slogan because the underlying technology simply doesn't scale. Now let's get into the first truly scary truth about Hedera HBAR, the one that will make a lot of old school crypto purists squirm. Hedera isn't a blockchain. In fact, it was built specifically to solve the problems that blockchains inherently face. It's a hash graph. Now, I know that sounds super technical, maybe even a little frightening. The word blockchain is something we all understand. It's the foundation of everything. So to hear that a project you're invested in is something else can feel like the ground is shifting beneath your feet. But I want you to lean into that feeling. I want you to embrace that fear of the unknown, because what you're about to learn will turn that fear into pure, unadulterated conviction. Instead of stacking blocks, the hash graph uses a different consensus mechanism. It uses something called gossip about gossip and virtual voting. It's a simple, elegant solution. Every node in the network gossips with a few of its neighbors about the transactions it has. They share this information and it spreads lightning fast across the network. This is not like a traditional blockchain where you have to wait for miners or validators to package a block and add it to the chain. The information spreads concurrently. Then, using something called virtual voting, the nodes can come to a consensus on the order of transactions without having to waste time actually voting on them. It's as if they can all see the same thing at the same time and agree on it instantly. So what's the takeaway from this technical sounding process? Here's where the fear should start to turn into excitement. The takeaway is that it's lightning fast, ridiculously cheap, and it's fair in a way that most chains just aren't. Let's talk about the cost. The average Hedera transaction fee is a tiny fraction of a cent. We're talking 0.00001 cent, not 10 cents, not a dollar, and certainly not the terrifying $50 0 cents gas fees we used to see on Ethereum during peak congestion. That's not a theoretical number, that's live right now. You can test it today. For mass adoption, for things like micropayments, Web3 gaming, or creator economies, this is the holy grail. Because no matter how cool your Web3 app is, no one is paying $20 0 cents in fees to move a $1 0 cents asset. And that's a scary truth that has held back every other project. The high fees, the slow transaction times, they are the silent killers of adoption, but Hedera's Hashgraph tech completely bypasses that. I remember my grandpa Leo telling me about the first time he saw a microwave oven. He said, "I was terrified of it. It cooked food in seconds. It felt like magic. It felt wrong." He was so used to waiting on the stove that the speed was frightening. But then he realized that it wasn't a magic trick. It was just a new way of doing things, a better way. That's exactly what the Hashgraph is for crypto. Then it's not a magic trick, it's just a better way. And the people who get past that initial fear are the ones who are going to benefit the most. So now you understand the first scary truth. It's not a blockchain. And that's a good thing. It's a fundamentally superior technology for a future built on billions of transactions. But wait, there's another scary truth I need to reveal. One that has been the biggest criticism of Hedera for years. It's about who runs the network. And for anyone who loves decentralization, this next truth might feel even more frightening than the last one. We're going to talk about the Hedera Governing Council and why it's not a threat, but the one thing that will finally bring trust to crypto. Don't click away. You need to see this. And before you do, just for a moment, think about how much you want to stay ahead of the curve. And in that spirit, just maybe hit that subscribe button. It's a small click now for a massive payoff in the future. Right, so the first scary truth is out. Hedera isn't a blockchain, and its Hashgraph technology is fundamentally better for mass adoption. Now for the second, and for many people, even more terrifying truth. This is the one that has been at the center of the debate for years, and it's a direct challenge to the very core of crypto ideology. The Hedera Governing Council. Unlike most projects where token whales or anonymous validators run the show, Hedera said, what if we create a council made up of some of the most recognized enterprises and institutions in the world? This sounds counterintuitive, right? The entire crypto ethos is about decentralization, about not having a central authority. And here you have Google, IBM, Boeing, Dell, Standard Bank, and even LG sitting at the same table, literally running Hedera's nodes and shaping its roadmap. But that's not something you see in crypto every day. In fact, it's the exact opposite of what most projects preach. And to a new investor, that can feel absolutely terrifying. It can feel like a complete betrayal of the very idea of crypto. And yeah, that's been the debate. The common criticism is that it's centralized. But here's the thing. In practice, Hedera's model is more decentralized than a chain with a handful of anonymous whales controlling consensus. You know what's scarier than a few big companies governing a network? A network where you have no idea who is in control. A network where a handful of anonymous insiders can collude in the shadows to control the flow of transactions and manipulate the system. Most projects scream decentralization, but they end up with shadowy insiders pulling the strings. Hedera flipped that model on its head. Its trust anchor is that it's being governed by publicly known, globally recognized organizations. You know exactly who is at the table, and those council members rotate. No single company gets permanent control. This is the beauty of it. For mainstream users, for businesses, for governments, for NGOs, that level of predictability and transparency matters way more than the ideology of pure decentralization. When the world's biggest corporations are looking to move multi-trillion-dollar assets on-chain, they don't want to use a network where the rules can change on a whim or where a few anonymous people hold all the power. They want a network that is governed by entities they recognize and trust. I can just imagine Grandpa Leo shaking his head at the anonymous whales of crypto. He'd say, "Son, the man who hides in the shadows is the one you should fear, not the man who sits at the table in broad daylight." He'd understand that trust and transparency are the real anchors of any economy. He'd see that this model isn't about giving up decentralization, it's about redefining it for the real world. So for all the purists out there who are still scared of this model, I want you to ask yourself a question. What is more important for mass adoption? A utopian ideal of decentralization that is impossible to achieve in practice, or a system that is transparent, reliable, and governed by credible entities? The answer is obvious. For the first time, we have a network that the biggest companies in the world can actually use. They can build on it and they can trust it. But why does all of this matter for you, the everyday person? Why should you care if Google or IBM are on the governing council? Because if you're trying to bring Web3 to billions of people, whether it's through micropayments, Web3 gaming, or tokenized real-world assets, you need infrastructure that's not only fast and cheap, but also trusted by the people who are going to build the applications and bring in the user. Hedera ticks all those boxes. In the next segment, we're going to dive into the most profound and scary truth of all. The problem with most crypto is its complexity, and Hedera's scary simplicity is its final killer advantage. We've talked about the tech and the governance. Now let's get to the scariest part of all. The one thing that has held back crypto from mass adoption more than anything else. It's not a technical flaw. It's not a lack of funding. It's the simple, terrifying fact that most people just don't care. They don't want to hear about hash graphs, DAGs, or rollups. They don't want to memorize a 24-word seed phrase. They don't want to figure out gas fees. For most people, crypto is just too complicated, too confusing, and too intimidating. And that's the scary truth. We as a community are so deep in the rabbit hole that we've forgotten what it's like to be on the outside looking in. We've normalized a level of complexity that is a complete non-starter for billions of people. This is the big red flashing light that has been ignored for years. No matter how revolutionary your technology is, if it's too difficult to use, it will never be adopted by the masses. Hedera's vision is to change that. Its goal isn't to get people to understand its tech. Its goal is to build a system so seamless, so simple, that people can use it without even realizing they're on a Hashgraph network. It's the quiet builder. It's the foundation that works in the background so you can just use the application. This is the exact opposite of the crypto projects that are built on hype and complex jargon. It's a boring, methodical, and profoundly important approach. Think about it this way. When you use your credit card, you don't think about the global financial network it's running on. You don't care about the back-end infrastructure of the Visa or MasterCard network. You just tap and go. And that's what Hedera is building. It's building the foundation for a future where you can stream a movie, buy a skin in a game, or tip your favorite creator without having to think about transaction fees or network congestion. They just want their payment to go through instantly. They want their in-game NFT to show up without a hiccup. They want to tip their favorite creator online without paying more in fees than the tip itself. That's the promise, and that's a promise that every other network has failed to deliver on for the everyday person. It's a promise that is finally being fulfilled by a network that understands that the future isn't about complexity, it's about simplicity. It's about building for your mom, your neighbor, and your coworker who don't care about the tech jargon. This is why Hedera is uniquely positioned for mass adoption. And this scary simplicity allows for one killer use case that other networks simply cannot handle. A use case that is about to explode in 2025. It's a use case that will bring billions of people into the network without them even realizing it. We're going to dive into micropayments and why they are the perfect Trojan horse for mass adoption. I'll show you how a seemingly small use case is actually the single biggest opportunity for HBAR to create true utility and value. And I promise you, what you're about to learn will make you feel incredibly confident about your investment. So just like Grandpa Leo used to say, sometimes the best opportunities are the ones that look a little scary at first, and that's when you have to lean in and trust your gut. Speaking of trusting your gut, if you're not already subscribed, there's no better time than now to take a chance. Okay, we've covered the scary simplicity that makes Hedera so revolutionary. Now, let's talk about a use case that takes that simplicity and turns it into a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. It's a use case that has been a holy grail for crypto for years, but one that every other network has failed to execute on. I'm talking about micropayments. The scary thought is that a lot of tiny, small transactions can't possibly amount to anything, but that's where you're wrong. That's the beautiful, unbelievable reality of Hedera. Think about what's happening in 2025. Streaming platforms are cracking down on ad revenue. Creators are looking for new ways to get paid directly. Imagine paying a cent or half a cent to unlock premium content, to tip your favorite streamer, or to listen to music. The fee is practically zero. That's a use case Ethereum can't touch right now because the transaction fees would eat up the payment. Bitcoin certainly can't. But Hedera? That's its bread and butter. It's built for these tiny, frequent transactions. This is the Trojan horse. It's a seemingly small, niche use case that will quietly bring billions of people onto the network. People don't want to buy an entire token or deal with complex exchanges just to support a creator. They want to pay a tiny amount directly. And Hedera is the only network that can make that practical. It's a silent revolution. Now let's look at another example, IoT, the Internet of Things. This is where micropayments could really explode. Imagine your electric car automatically paying for charging on the go, or your smart fridge negotiating the best deal on groceries and paying suppliers in tiny increments. Those machine-to-machine payments aren't going to be $50 0 cents at a time. They'll be fractions of a cent, thousands of times per second. Hedera, with its low latency and low cost, is tailor-made for that environment. Other networks are trying to solve this, but their infrastructure is too slow, too expensive, or too clunky. Hedera is the only one that combines enterprise-grade reliability with costs so low they actually make micropayments viable. Why haven't micropayments taken off elsewhere? The answer is simple. The infrastructure hasn't been there. Bitcoin's Lightning Network tried to solve this, but adoption has been slow and the user experience is still clunky. Ethereum, even with scaling solutions, just isn't cheap enough. Other chains are either unproven, too volatile, or too centralized for enterprises to take seriously. Hedera stands out because it combines enterprise-grade reliability with costs so low they actually make micropayments viable. This is not a future dream, this is happening today. And here's the kicker. Micropayments aren't just a cool feature. They're a wedge into everyday life. If you're using micropayments to unlock articles, to tip creators, to pay per minute for streaming, you're not just experimenting with crypto, you're living it daily. That's what mass adoption looks like. Not people buying tokens and hoping they moon, but people using the network every single day without even realizing it's crypto under the hood. And this is the beauty of Hedera. It's not trying to get your mom to learn about wallets. It's trying to get her to unlock an article online with a single click. And in the background, a tiny, almost free transaction on the Hedera network makes it all possible. This is the revolution that's happening, and we are on the ground floor. It's a scary thought to realize that the most valuable use case for crypto might not be big, flashy transactions, but millions of tiny ones. But that's the reality. And it's a reality that will make the HBAR token incredibly valuable. In the next segment, we're going to talk about a market that has been plagued by speculation and fraud, a market that is ripe for disruption by Hedera, NFTs, and Web3 gaming. So we just talked about the unbelievable reality of micropayments as a Trojan horse for mass adoption. Now let's talk about a market that has been so volatile, so unpredictable, and so downright frightening that it's given crypto a bad name: the NFT and Web3 gaming spaces. I know what you're thinking. Aren't NFTs dead? And to be fair, the 2021 hype bubble did a number on their reputation. The overpriced JPEGs, the rug pulls, the get-rich-quick culture, it left a bad taste in a lot of mouths. That's a scary truth. The market is so unpredictable that it feels like a minefield. But here's the thing, the NFT concept itself was never the problem. Ownership of digital assets, be it art, music, tickets, collectibles, that's a powerful idea. What failed was the infrastructure. The problem was high minting costs, insane gas fees, and networks that couldn't scale. That's where Hedera quietly built an advantage that no other network can match. On Hedera, minting an NFT doesn't cost hundreds of dollars, it costs pennies. That's a game changer for creators who aren't millionaires or big name brands. If you're an independent artist trying to sell your digital artwork, you don't want to drop $200 0 cents in fees before you've even made a sale. Hedera makes it cheap, fast, and reliable. That lowers the barrier to entry and opens the door for a whole new class of creators. And it's not just about art. Think about ticketing, concert tickets, sports events, conferences. These are all plagued by scalping, fraud, and middlemen taking huge cuts. NFTs on Hedera could solve that. Every ticket is unique, verifiable, and transferable in real time. And because fees are tiny, event organizers can issue thousands or millions of tickets without worrying about costs. That's practical utility. That's what this market desperately needs. Then you have Web3 gaming. This has been another one of those next big things that has consistently failed to deliver on its promise. Most chains either have gas fee nightmares or can't handle scale. Hedera is perfectly positioned here. Fast finality, low costs, and easy tokenization through the Hedera Token Service, HTS. Developers don't want to deal with clogged networks or angry players complaining about $5 0 cents transaction costs just to upgrade a weapon in-game. Hedera gives them a smooth path. It was practically built for this. With its high throughput, fast finality, and fees that are literally fractions of a cent, Hedera gives game developers something they've been begging for: infrastructure that doesn't get in the way We're already seeing early examples on Hedera. The Hashpack wallet has become a hub for NFTs and in-game assets, making it easy for players to buy, store, and trade items. Projects are experimenting with tokenized collectibles and event-based rewards where players can earn NFTs just by participating. And because Hedera's fees are so low, developers can build systems where rewards are handed out automatically without worrying about costs eating into the experience. Learn more at headspace.com, present out by necessity with survival and a phantom event. And the fairness of the consensus model means no one has an advantage due to transaction lag. In gaming, where milliseconds matter, that's huge. So when we talk about Web3 gaming and NFTs, Hedera isn't just another option. It's one of the few networks that can actually handle the scale and economics required. If gaming is going to bring millions of people into Web3, Hedera has a real shot at being the backbone. It isn't trying to make NFTs cool again, it's making them useful. And in the long run, usefulness always wins. And if you're feeling a new sense of confidence about your HBAR holdings, just a friendly reminder, that feeling is your gut telling you that you found something special. It's also a great time to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've covered the tech, the governance, the micropayments, and the redemption of NFTs and Web3 gaming. Now for the final scary truth, the one that will challenge your patience. What if Hedera never gets the hype it deserves? What if it never has the loud, flashy moments that Bitcoin and Ethereum have had? This can feel like a silent threat. It can make you doubt your investment when you see other coins pumping and hear about crazy new meme coins. You might feel like you're missing out. But this, my friends, is its biggest advantage. Hedera's growth narrative is built on utility and credibility, not on meme-driven hype cycles. It's the quiet, reliable infrastructure play rather than the loud, speculative one. Think of it as the network that works in the background, a silent but deadly threat to other blockchains. While other projects are busy building communities on Twitter and trying to get attention, Hedera is busy onboarding enterprises, governments, and NGOs. They are landing massive deals that don't make for good headlines, but do bring in millions of real-world transaction. Look at what's happening. Hedera is carving out a reputation as the serious network where business actually gets done. It's the one that major corporations trust to handle their digital identity, carbon tracking, and supply chain management. This is a very different kind of growth. It's not about a short-term price pump. It's about a long-term, multi-decade plan to become the foundation for a new digital economy. It's a scary thought for the short-term investor. It requires patience. It requires a fundamental belief in the technology and the vision. Can't help but think of Grandpa Leo again. He used to say, the loudest wagon in the parade is usually the emptiest. He'd talk about how the most successful businesses were often the quiet ones, the ones that just did their work day in and day out, building a solid foundation. That's the Hedera model. It may not make the loudest headlines every week, but sometimes the quiet builders end up creating the foundations that everyone else relies on. Of course, risks remain. Regulation is still a wild card, and the competition in this space is brutal. If Ethereum rolls out smoother scalability solutions, or if Solana captures even more of the DeFi and gaming crowd, Hedera will have to fight harder for relevance. But Hedera's unique hashgraph tech and enterprise-first approach give it a competitive moat that most blockchains simply can't replicate. It's a fundamental design advantage that will protect it in the long run. So how high can HBAR realistically go? The truth is, if Hedera can keep expanding partnerships, land a few breakout apps, and ride the inevitable next wave of institutional crypto adoption, HBAR could position itself as one of the most valuable infrastructure tokens of the decade. It may not make you a millionaire overnight, but the quiet, consistent growth built on real utility will create a value that no meme coin can ever match. It's a powerful thought, and it's a profound promise. The final segment will tie it all together and reveal the ultimate payoff. We've been on a journey. We started with a fear, a doubt, a nagging suspicion that mass adoption might just be a slogan. We then faced some truly scary truths about Hedera, the fact that it's not a blockchain, that its governance model is controlled by a council of corporations, and that it grows without the flashy hype cycles of other projects. But as we've walked through each of these truths, we've found something incredible. We've found that each one of these scary things is actually its greatest strength. The fact that it's a hash graph means it's infinitely more scalable, faster, and cheaper than any blockchain. The fact that it has a governing council means it has the trust and credibility to bring in the world's biggest companies. The fact that it grows quietly means its value is built on a solid foundation of real-world utility, not on speculation. And it's this combination of factors that leads us to the final truth, the one that will make every long-term HBAR holder feel a sense of immense pride and confidence. The ultimate truth is that your price prediction is probably way too low. This is the scary high price prediction. It's scary because it's based on something that most people in crypto don't understand or even value: utility at scale. HBAR is not going to get more valuable because of a celebrity tweet or a popular meme. It's going to get more valuable because every single micropayment transaction, every single NFT mint, every single in-game purchase, and every single supply chain event will all run on HBAR. It's the engine of a new economy. That's utility. And it's happening at a scale no one has ever seen before. When we talk about the future, we're not talking about a niche market. We're talking about billions of transactions per day. When you use HBAR to tip a creator a fraction of a cent, or when a game developer builds a seamless experience for millions of players, or when a company uses Hedera to track its supply chain, all those transactions consume tiny amounts of HBAR. And as the network effect grows, as more and more people and companies start using Hedera, the demand for HBAR will go parabolic. This isn't about hope, it's about math. It's about supply and demand. And with every new use case, the demand for HBAR will increase. The $163 billion 0 cents market of DeFi we talked about in a previous video, the multi-trillion-dollar market of IoT, the multi-billion-dollar markets of gaming and micropayments, all of these are opportunities for HBAR to capture, and it's the only network that can do it at scale. So when you see a competitor with a loud, flashy marketing campaign, I want you to remember this video. I want you to remember the silent threat that is Hedera, the quiet builder, the one that's laying the tracks for the future, the one that has turned every scary truth into a competitive advantage. This is the ultimate payoff, and it's a story that is just beginning to unfold. The bottom line is that Hedera is not just another crypto project. It's an experiment in building a more efficient, fair, and sustainable digital economy, and if it succeeds, HBAR holders today could be sitting on one of the most underappreciated plays in the market. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Hedera's future, I want to ask you something. You've been so patient, watching and learning, and for that, I am truly grateful. And if you're feeling as excited as I am right now, I need you to do one last thing. It's a completely unexpected request, but I think it's worth it. If you believe that Hedera is the future, subscribe to the channel right now. We'll be back soon to talk about a new problem in the crypto space and how Hedera is already preparing to solve it before it even happens. Stay tuned.